So you want to be on Broadway.
Do da dippity. Come on.
They say the neon nights are right on Broadway. On Broadway. Hey y'all, it's me, Tay Marquise. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been here before, thank you for being a friend. Now this video is a little different and a little unconventional for the type of videos that I've been putting out. But if you look at my banner on my page, I'm going to be doing many different videos. And today's video is about how to audition for a Broadway show, because I wasn't educated going into it. And I feel like a lot of people still don't know how it works and what that experience is like for people just coming into the theater scene, and even people who are just coming into the professional theater scene but have been doing theater before. This video is to help educate you from one actor to another, and it's basically to give you insight based on my experience as an actor here in New York City, living that actor experience, living the actor life, doing auditions, seeing shows, fostering community in the theater scene, just getting my foot in the door. So first off, to get started, when it comes to auditioning for a Broadway show, there's two types of auditions, two main auditions that Broadway shows have. One is an EPA and one is an ECC. EPA is equity principal auditions. These are the leading roles. These are maybe featured roles in the show, but they're very specific. ECCs are equity chorus calls. That's what ECC stands for. They're both acronyms. And ECCs are for the ensemble, for the people, supporting the show. So before we get started, you need to know if you're non-equity or equity. If you're watching this video, you're probably non-equity, but some people might be equity, just they got their equity card somewhere else and have not experienced the New York audition scene yet. So what I'm going to talk about is the perspective of a non-equity actor in New York City. I've worked equity contracts. I've done work in Kansas City. I've done work at PCLO in Pittsburgh. I've done work at the Rev in Auburn. So I've had my fair share of auditions. I've done Broadway auditions here in New York. I've done callbacks for Broadway shows. So I've done a little bit of everything so far. Haven't done Broadway yet, but it's just a matter of time. First thing you need to know about auditions is where to find the auditions. Some places that I have found to be very convenient when it comes to locating and finding Broadway auditions are Playbill. Playbill is the number one. Playbill is a theater website that has like theater news, has theater opportunities, jobs. It's very theater focused, but it's very arts oriented too. So you'll hear about TV, you'll hear about film, you'll hear about award shows, you'll hear about a lot of the arts. Playbill is the hub. Also, Broadway World is similar to Playbill, but not exactly like Playbill, and I feel like it's not as tech savvy as Playbill is. Playbill seems more established than Broadway World, but they both post auditions. They both have the audition information in terms of where the audition is, the time, what they're looking for, what the pay of the show is. So you need to make sure you know all that information before going into a show. You need to know what they want you to bring to the audition, whether it's your book, New York, whether it's your book of music, whether it's your headshot, your resume, what kind of shoes you need, what kind of attire they want you to wear to the audition, just so that it's fitting for the show and so that you get to do the best audition that you can every time you audition. Another place that I find to be very convenient when finding out about auditions is Instagram. And this isn't just for theater, but for the purposes of theater Instagram, there's this page called The Hustle. And basically the day of, every single day of the week, because auditions usually happen during the work week, so like Monday to Friday, they'll post the auditions that are happening that day, where they're happening, what time, whether it's an afternoon or a morning call. And throughout the day, they give you updates based on if non-equity is being seen in the audition room, if they're allowing you to audition, or if they're turning you away and telling you to come back in the afternoon, or if they're not seeing you at all. So make sure you are staying up to date when auditions are happening, and make sure you're visiting those websites. Make sure you're active on Instagram and following The Hustle. And sometimes you'll just hear about auditions word of mouth. In the audition room, there is always a person sitting at a table in the front of the room called an equity monitor. And their job is to make sure all the equity people get seen, make sure they get signed up, make sure they mark who's there, who's not there. Same for non-equity, but it's not as formal as equity. There's no actual system. There's no pre-sign up sheet that they're flipping through. It's only the list that we transfer that day. As they're calling, they'll say if anybody from AGMA, Canadian Equity, other unions wants to sign up, they also get priority over non-union. And then after they finish calling all those people, if they have time, if they have space, they'll start calling people from non-equity. They'll call your name a few times, you bring them your headshot and resume, and then they'll cross you off the list. They'll line you up, get the stack of headshots and resumes, tell you what you're auditioning for, tell you what the team is asking for, whether it's like 16 bars of music, 32 bars, whether it's a monologue, whether it's whatever. They'll give you all that information. You can usually ask them like how many people are being seen in groups. They'll tell you maybe it's like 30 to 40 people per dance call, and they'll tell you how long the dance call runs. So they're just there to provide insight and information on site, because obviously the casting and the creative teams can't keep doing that because that would take too much time. So equity monitors are just people who work for equity, who keep the audition flowing, make sure people are informed, and add a little bit of ease to the audition scene. Maybe I should become an equity monitor. but that will feel weird. Now we're going to try to navigate a typical non-equity audition timeline and what it's composed of. First things first, for the sake of getting seen earlier, if non-equity is being seen, you want to try to get to the top of the list, because the way it works is with equity people who are just people who are a part of the union, you know, you have to pay dues. You used to have to work a certain number of jobs or hours and get your equity card that way, but now people can pay for their equity card and you can just join equity, which gets you represented by the union. It gets you seen at calls. You have to be seen at calls. They can't turn you away, and it just guarantees that you get in the room. It does not guarantee that you get a job. It does not mean you're more talented. Like I said, people can pay for it. So don't let non-equity equity thing, don't let it ruin you, whatever. But if you have the ability to become equity, do that if it's best for you. If you don't have the ability and it's not best for you at the moment, don't do it. As a non-equity person, you can still work equity jobs, but it doesn't work the other way around. So keep that in mind. Now, for these auditions, for non-equity specifically, outside of the building that the audition is being held, they'll post a list. Not the people from the building, not the people hosting the audition, not the casting teams, none of that. It's just a list that a random non-equity person starts, because non-equity is not represented by a union. There isn't really anybody there isn't any formality to it. It's just what the people agree upon. They put a list, it'll be a blank sheet of paper, or it'll be a paper with some names on it because people already signed their names up. They put that out the night before. Night before meaning 12 a.m., which is the day of. So technically not the night before. But I said night before because sometimes people do put it up super duper early, like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock p.m., depending on how high in demand the show is. And I thought that was something that people mutually agreed upon, but you know, there's always people who break the rules, y'all. That being said, make sure you get there to put your name on the list. I've gotten to an audition as early as like 3, 4, 5 o'clock and wrote my name down, thought I was good. You know, you can go home because auditions usually start at 10 a.m. You go home and then come back the morning of, and from the non-equity sign-up sheet outside, they bring it in the building. And once the audition is about to start, they'll have someone transfer it to an official list on a paper that's provided by the equity monitor. One thing to take away from this is that your name might not be transferred unless you're there super early. So even if you sign up the night before or you sign up super early that morning, it is very important that you get there early enough to make sure that your name gets transferred or that they didn't scrap the list, because if they scrap the list, you'll have to sign up again. Because you're non-equity, they're not required to honor the list. Sometimes they can literally just throw it away and be like, this list was started too early, or we're not honoring the list, sign up while you're here. And sometimes there are people who just got there. Maybe they got there like 9 o'clock the day of the audition versus you getting there at 12 a.m. and they found out they scrapped the list and they were able to sign up before you, technically, because they were there when the new list was out before you were. So just keep that in mind. But I haven't had that much trouble for the most part. There was one day that I signed up for a bunch of auditions. I got there super early, and I'm never doing it again. I got there super early at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I signed up on a bunch of auditions, a bunch of non-equity lists, and my name got scrapped from a bunch of them. I focused on MJ the Musical. I was doing MJ the Musical that day, and it was fine because I got to be seen for MJ the Musical, but it was like, dang, I can't audition for other stuff in the meantime because my name is off the list. If a list gets started early at night and if it's a high demand show, I'll use like Anne Juliet, for example. Anne Juliet is very diverse, and when it comes to diversity, that means more people will audition, obviously, because more people can be in the show. There was like 100 and something people on the list when I got there early in the morning at like 3 o'clock. So I'm like, when did they actually start the list? But people do what they want to do. You just have to charge to the game, and you just got to keep pushing forward. Let's just say everything works out. You signed up, they transfer the list, you get there. Boom. When it comes to being seen at an audition, an equity call, whether it's a chorus call or an EPA, they have to see the equity people first. When you're equity, you have the ability to sign up for auditions online and you get an appointment time, or you can come the day of and just sign up then and there, and they have to see you regardless. So equity is prioritized before non-equity, and as a non-equity person, you have to know that you're at risk of sitting at an audition all day and possibly not being seen, because sometimes they don't tell you to go home or they don't send you away, because what they like to say is if time permits. And that just means if we have time, we'll see you. Sometimes they know early on that they're not going to be able to see non-equity. Sometimes you just wait it out, and I've done it a lot, unfortunately. If you're lucky and they get through all the equity auditions for that day, they'll start calling names from the non-equity list and they'll start going down the roster. I have to warn you, if equity people come throughout the day, even if it's not when the audition time started, they get prioritized over the non-equity people. So say, for example, you're literally standing outside of the audition room, you're about to go in, you've handed your headshot and resume in, they've checked you off the list, you've done all that. If an equity person comes and says that they want to audition, they get to go in front of you. So just know that it's a funky system. Obviously, they pay for the union, they're in the union, so they get to be seen, but it does a doozy on you. I forgot to mention that sometimes equity auditions have 2 slots. I think they usually have 2 slots. And one is for the morning, one is for the afternoon. The morning is usually from like 10 o'clock a.m. to lunchtime. We'll say like, I guess 12, 1 o'clock. It depends on the show, what their timeline is. And then the afternoon auditions usually start at 2 o'clock. Sometimes there's 2 separate lists for afternoon and morning. And sometimes in the auditions, if everybody doesn't get seen on the morning list, they just transfer those people to the afternoon list at the top of that list and then add on other people who decided to join in the afternoon. Sometimes the way it works, the people are hungry. The people are, they're ready to fight about these roles. They're ready to fight about these auditions. So sometimes people agree sounds passive, but no, people get crazy. People get hectic. People get anxious. Sometimes they allow you to transfer the list. Sometimes they say, no, we want to start from scratch. And sometimes you're just unfortunate. But in the auditions, once you get in the room, if it's an EPA or an ECC, it's a regular audition. Everybody does the same audition, whether you're equity or non-equity. It just depends on if or when you get seen. So if you're in a dance call and you're with non-equity people, or if you're with equity people, it's the same thing. Everybody gets to do everything. I think that's pretty much it for the introduction on how to audition for a Broadway show. I hope it's as simple as I want it to be. If it's not, feel free to comment some questions below and I'll answer them in another video and go further in depth if that is necessary, because I'm here for a good time, not a long time. That's my mindset I have at these auditions. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, y'all. Go watch the other videos, watch the vlogs, watch the fun things that I've done. I'm obviously going to do more how-to videos and explain, because I feel like I'm very passionate about teaching and spreading wisdom and spreading light and spreading joy in Broadway. Thank you for watching. Come again. Bye.